Football has begun.
I'm not wearing a football shirt. You are. I didn't get the memo.
Do you want one?
No. Why? You've met me. Why would I want a football shirt? What kind of football shirt is that? For the people not watching the video version. What kind of football shirt is this? This is an England football team.
It's not.
No?
Well, no.
Okay.
It's a Southend-based fan club of a German second division team. So the German second division team is called St. Pauli.
Right.
And this is St. Pauli on Sea, which is the Southend-based fan club. So it's a kit for them.
Hang on. Pause. So there are fans in Southend that like St. Paulio, which is in St. Pauli, which is...
Or St. Pauli.
Okay, that sounds French, but they're in Germany.
Because I said it with a French accent.
That'll be why.
Yeah.
Because, the Germans and the French don't have a complicated history.
They currently play in the Zweite Bundesliga, which is the second division, and they're quite progressive, socialist in their values. And this is a supporting shirt, and it has on the front, it's a blackout shirt, and it says "Keiner Mensch ist illegal," which means no one is illegal.
Oh, okay.
So it's an anti closed borders, no to refugees kind of thing. So it's just against that. It's saying yes, no, there are no illegal people. People are not illegal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for people wanting a Magick podcast,
tough.
we promise we are going to get to that. But welcome to this podcast all about sports shirts. No,
football shirts. I'll go and get. I've got more.
I know. You have many shirts,
and I will be wearing another one of these in a different episode later on when we record that in a few weeks.
Okay.
A Pride-based one for St. Pauli on Sea.
Okay. So my podcast listeners will look forward to hearing about it and not being able to see it. Yeah. I'm wearing what I think is a baseball.
It is like a baseball type shirt.
Style top. Even though I've never played baseball, I can imagine using my experience of rounders that I would be shit at it.
Have you even watched baseball?
I've watched Field of Dreams, which counts.
That counts. That's as good as.
And I've watched In a League of Their Own, which counts.
They're making a TV show of that.
Shut up! They are not.
With Janet from The Good Place is in it.
Is it based on the movie?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course it would be because. Yeah, is there a women's baseball league like today?
There must be. I'm sure there is.
Okay, it's probably like all female sports, as in it's not on telly, so you don't get to see it.
I bet it's on telly. They have
it's just not on telly here.
Sports channels in America. Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, fair enough. I'm sure the sports fans of America that listen to this Magick podcast will let us know.
Yes.
That it's on the telly.
There's
on the telly box.
Huge crossover in the audiences between this Magick podcast and women's sports.
Yeah, well,
minority women's sports.
I like to think so. I think that we are in the middle of that Venn diagram.
Yeah. Magic, sport. Yes, I'm in the middle, obviously.
Oh, obviously.
Here I am. It's just
and for people that do listen on the podcast and don't get to see our set design here, there's lots of football, what I would call bric-a-brac, but I'm sure it's not.
They're books. I know you don't like to read that much, but these are what we call books.
Hang on, let me write that down. Books. Okay, question mark. I'll Google that. No, I just mean that, there are pins, buttons, as the Americans... I think
I guess.
No, we call them badges.
Badges. They call them pins.
Pins or buttons.
Or buttons, yeah.
Buttons. Yeah. And obviously...
Paraphernalia.
Bric-a-brac. Bric-a-brac. Paraphernalia. Bric-a-brac.
Memorabilia?
Yeah, sure. You say memorabilia. I say tut.
Back to the magic.
Yeah.
The magic of football.
The magic of a Magick podcast.
Yes. But,
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of blended, or we're getting into it now. Mm-hmm. Football is going to play a little bit of a part in this podcast today.
This episode?
Yeah,
or this
episode.
podcast?
No, this episode specifically.
Episode, right. Because I know
I'd like it to play more of a part in the podcast.
I know. And then
But
we do talk an awful lot about pop culture, telly.
It's not the same.
What? Yeah, it is.
No,
is it not?
Pop culture's here.
Where?
Football's up here.
Oh, so you've put football above
Yeah.
pop culture.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not how it works in my head, but
But
okay.
we're surrounded by football bric-a-brac. Not pop culture bric-a-brac. Don't look over there.
We are, dear listeners and viewers, what you don't see in this tiny studio is the sheer amount of those, what are they, pops?
Pops. Funko Pops.
Bobblehead people that,
Yeah.
they've got little bodies and massive heads and they jiggle their heads around.
Yes, like this Jimi Hendrix one here.
But he doesn't bobble
No,
head.
it doesn't bobble. Not all of them bobble.
Thanos bobbles over there. Anyway,
Enough.
this is obviously not my studio.
10 minutes of... People are going... Right, we might need to put like a little disclaimer at the beginning of this episode that says if you want to miss out on all of this gubbins, skip to the 10-minute mark or something.
Yeah, if you...
Sorry.
Right. So
But
you were
football
saying...
is going to play a part in this episode.
Okay.
Because this episode we're going to talk a bit about psychology of magic.
Yeah.
Which includes things like visualization and kind of making things happen. Recognizing that spells are working by recognizing the results and positive thinking rather than requiring results to convince you things have worked.
Yeah, that's right. And I think we did mention that we were going to do an episode all about psychology or science or whatever, wherever we end up with this, on the other, I think it was the one about definitions in magic.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit about it last week in the Halloween one, where we talked about the different cultures on other sides of the world with the collective unconscious. And I think we've since decided, we need to have a whole episode.
We do.
Just
we talked about it
this.
enough that we kind of thought, yes, we need to get this going.
Yeah.
Cool. Where would you like to start?
I am in your hands, not your literal hands.
They're here.
They're over there where they belong. And
I have not learned about sex magic. No, they're here.
Okay, so I'm in your hands. And I know that when we were talking before we started to record about the pop culture narrative, we perhaps have struggled to identify the pop culture representations of the psychology behind magic.
Yeah, I think it's more... Pop culture seems to deal more with the positive mental attitude type stuff, the positive thinking, rather than the psychology of magic and that sort of thing. It's more, without calling it such, it's more about the manifestation, visualizing things yourself and manifesting the outcome that you want, which I know you've talked about on the website about spell casting and things like that. And actually, having that positive mental attitudes before, during and after spell casting to make it more likely to happen, which is true of lots of other things. So the reason I was joking about football coming into this is because I play football on a Tuesday with some friends and we do awards and things at the end of the year, and we do one for the top goal scorer. And I went into the last week of the season 3 goals behind the top goal scorer.
Yeah.
And for the entirety of the week, because I'm still a child and focus so much on football and wanting to do well, for the entirety of the week, I was thinking, when I was preparing and thinking ahead to the last game of the season, I saw myself scoring 4 goals.
In your own head?
In my own head. And I could kind of picture how I was going to score them and what was going to happen. And it was just continual in my head. I'm going to score 4 goals. And then on the last game of the season, I did. I scored 4 goals. A few of them, a couple of them did kind of represent how I'd seen myself scoring them. One of them was outrageous, so I'd not seen that in my head before. But I did. I spent the week visualising it, consciously and subconsciously. And then when I played on the Tuesday, I scored 4 goals. And I was the top goal scorer. So actually, amongst the bric-a-brac over your shoulder is the lovely fancy trophy I got for doing it. Don't touch it.
It's actually quite heavy.
It is quite heavy.
I thought it would be a bit shit and made of plastic.
It is made of plastic, but the base is heavy.
Oh, okay.
But, don't crush my dreams. But that's what you talk about in your article around spellcasting and psychology, is that kind of positive visualization. It's seeing the results, because the act of casting the spell is only part of the process, right?
Yes. That's just the sprinkles on the ice cream of magic. Basically.
Magic ice cream.
Magic, delicious magic. Yeah, absolutely. So can I ask if that's your first experience of manifesting something that then comes into existence?
I think it's my personal first experience, or at least it's certainly the most recent and one I can recall. I don't think I've ever consciously projected it that much.
Yeah.
I know you've had experience of that. We live where we live because you kind of visualized us having this kind of house when we needed it.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So yeah. But for me that was kind of like the first one.
Yeah. Okay. And you're right. The actual ritual aspect of spell casting, the whole get your ingredients and you mix them together, or you set fire to something or whatever, and the chanting or the incantations that you say, and all of this stuff is really the sort of wraparound. There's work that you have to do before spell casting time and after spell casting time. I think a lot of people that are new to magic, or people who are inexperienced of magic, get the impression from pop culture that all you have to do is, get your candle and do your thing,
say
and
some
then
words.
Ta-da! Yeah. The thing appears. Yeah, it's not really like that. Not real life, anyway. There is this whole attitudinal thing that you have to create before the actual light the candle bit, and then after you've blown the candle out. I say candle a lot. You don't have to use candles, but whatever it is that you are creating in that ritual moment, when you've done it and you've gone home or whatever, there's still work to do. There's all of that stuff, and that comes from the act of manifesting, the visualization that you might have to do, and all of that stuff. And when you have done your spell, you've still got work to do. You have to look out for the opportunities to deliver the thing that you want. I mean, you were visualizing scoring 4 goals. Let's imagine, and ultimately you wanted to win the trophy. That's what it's all about.
I am that shallow.
It wasn't just, can I just score some goals? You wanted to win.
I wanted to win the trophy, yes.
You wanted to win the trophy.
It's the first one I ever won. I've been played for so many years. So many. Anyway.
So that was the goal.
Yes.
That was what you wanted. And to get there, you recognised that you had to get one more goal than the other dude.
Yeah.
So that was what you needed. So you visualised 4 goals. That's what I need to do to get the trophy. Had you not gone to football that day,
yeah, I wouldn't have scored any goals. And so you
No
still,
trophy
you
for
still
you.
have to do the
yeah.
the thing afterwards, don't you?
Yes,
So,
you still have to do the work.
yeah.
Doing some visualization, casting a spell is not a shortcut to having to do the work.
And post spell casting, I guess you need to look for confirmation that what you wanted has happened. You can't wait for it to come to you. You have to be a bit more active about that. Look for signs from the universe that this has occurred, or that if you've asked, you're doing it to ask a question, to ask for guidance, that is coming, the form that it's coming in, rather than just sitting back and saying, well, I've done it now, so where's my sign?
Yeah, or where's my winning lottery ticket, or whatever it is.
You have to be open. Your mind has to be open to see what's coming your way, right?
Okay, so yes, you do have to do the work. And if I was to say law of attraction to you, what? You're right to howl with laughter. It's fine.
A couple of weeks ago you were talking about sex magic. Now you're talking about rules of attraction. Laws of attraction. Rules of Attraction is a book by Bric and Ellis. But
okay.
Don't read, so. Bric Laws of attraction.
The law of attraction.
Physics.
No. Oh no. No. Oh my God. No. I'm sorry for everyone who thinks it is an actual physics thing. It's not, and I don't care how many times The Secret likes to claim it is.
I'm putting on my concentrating face now.
Okay. That's a great concentration face. You need to have a pencil. There you go. Yes, excellent concentration face that the podcast listeners can't see, but okay.
I'm just hoping they think of something that's much more studious than it actually was. Tell me about the laws of attraction.
Well, law of attraction. Just one law.
One singular.
One singular. Okay, it's a philosophy. It's not physics, although it's not a law. No, it's not like the law of gravity. Although there are plenty of people in the esoteric world that really do believe it is part of the natural world. I'm not one of those people. But I can understand why people would think that, because there are so many things in physics that we just don't fully understand yet, which is fine. And maybe in many centuries from now, people will identify this philosophy as an actual element or a piece of the natural world that we just don't understand yet. But until we get to that moment in time and our evolution, I'm just going to go out on a limb and just call it a philosophy, because there's no science to suggest it's real yet. So the law of attraction, it's kind of based on a little bit about creating your own reality, which we talked about in the one about definitions of magic, where we sort of talked a little bit about chaos magic.
Okay, yeah.
So creating your reality. And so it's based on positive thinking gets you positive results, and negative thinking gets you negative results. There was a book, I think it was a book first, called The Secret, which has now been made into documentaries, and it's kind of famous, quite famous.
Okay, so it originated as Bric-a-Brac.
It originated as Bric-a-Brac and then moved into the real media of the telly box. So The Secret, if people don't know the law of attraction, they may have heard of this thing called The Secret, which is kind of where some of the psychology of magic lives within, although I'm not a subscriber to the philosophy. I'm not, although when we get to the end of this episode, perhaps people will be sitting there thinking, well, that is exactly The Secret and the law of attraction, which is fine. I just choose not to, because I think some of the, I don't know.
Is it labeling? Is that the issue?
Almost like The Secret as a like a product of the law of attraction, and the law of attraction has kind of been laughed out of acceptance by psychology professors, the people in the psychological community, which my own philosophy lives very much in the, I'm taking models and practices and exercises that are practiced today in psychology. I'm not trying to get people to apply the methodology that lives in that book, The Secret.
Okay, so I want to make sure I kind of understood, because I'm not 100% certain you answered the question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't write it down, so that's not surprising.
Well, you were going to tell me what the law of attraction was. So is it kind of like positive people attract positive things, negative people attract negative things? That's essentially it.
Yeah, and you create your own reality.
Yes.
And it's called the law of attraction because The Secret is trying to position this as a part of physics, like the law of gravity. They say the law of attraction.
So it's kind of like you see someone who's, you think is a very lucky person, they're always winning raffles or whatever and stuff like that, and they could just inherently be a very positive person and therefore positive things happen to them. They are attracted to them.
Do you know what cosmic ordering is?
Is that the thing that Noel Edmonds was going on about years and years ago?
Yes.
Which sounded very much like just visualization.
So cosmic ordering is this other thing connected to law of attraction, that you can put something out into the universe and then it will manifest itself into your life. And in the UK there is a game show called Deal or No Deal. I think it's probably been franchised and sold around the world by now.
Everywhere.
So basically it's a game about opening boxes, and there are numbers, and the contestant has to guess where the £1 million is, or maybe it's 250,000. I can't remember. I don't watch it, but that's essentially the idea. Is it's a guessing game for where is the money in these boxes that get opened up. This fellow called Noel Edmonds cosmically ordered this game show because his TV career after what was that?
Noel's House Party.
Noel's House Party. After he'd kind of, that had ended.
Our niche is getting ever niche.
Yeah. Sorry, everyone else who doesn't know who Noel Edmonds is. Basically, he had this huge career in the 80s and 90s. He was on pretty much everything. He was the presenter. And then...
He was James Corden. But, you know.
Sure. Better. Sorry, James.
Not sorry.
So he a bad thing happened on Noel's House Party, and a contestant, I think, got injured or died, and basically they canned him, they canned the show, and his career kind of went by the wayside until he cosmically ordered Deal or No Deal. He wanted to revive his career. So, I mean, he talks about this openly. So he cosmically ordered, using the law of attraction in the way that The Secret wants you to think it is, a law, a physics law that you can use, to create this show, and it manifested, and he got to present it, and bish bash bosh, he was a household name again.
How is it different to the visualization stuff that I was talking about earlier on?
It's not, but yeah, you said about the labels, it's not different. It's just a different label that's attributed to it.
Okay.
And The Secret and the law of attraction is possibly a label that makes people go, no, that's just rubbish. But if you say things like, oh, but if I have a well-formed outcome or a smart objective, and that's what I'm doing, I'm just living some smart objective to get to this thing, people kind of might sit up and take you more seriously. And so it's that. I think that The Secret and the way that book was received by Other more scientifically inclined people, I think, probably did quite a bit of a disservice to using psychology in a magical context to get things that you want, basically.
Okay, so it's almost like it's spell casting but without the spell.
Yeah, I guess.
So without the ritualistic element of it.
That's right. So certainly in The Secret, they don't talk about casting spells. They don't talk about magic. But obviously, we talk about magic and casting spells as a ritual in order to get you the thing that you want. But where it's coming from is the tools and the techniques that are applied in psychology more than the tools and the techniques that are written about in The Secret. I'm not saying that The Secret isn't a legitimate approach or a legitimate philosophy. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, spellcasters can read the book, The Secret, watch the documentary and sit back and go, well, that's my jam. That's fine.
Yeah.
We're just coming at it from a slightly different perspective. That's all.
Okay. So if you talk a bit about the psychology of it then, because I know you very much like to weave science into your magical practice and see them as being actually very connected disciplines rather than one who frowns upon the other.
Yes.
That sort of thing. So let's talk a bit about the psychology of spellcasting and stuff then, because we talked about positive thinking in the lead up, sort of thinking about what you want to achieve, what you want to get. Talk about positive thinking whilst you're actually casting the spell and kind of projecting the outcome whilst doing it, and then remaining positive and remaining open afterwards and looking for the signs, looking for the confirmation that the thing that you've cast a spell for has occurred. And I kind of think, is that sort of that part of it afterwards, the post-spell casting element is sort of, it's like what Jung would refer to as synchronicity. Is that right?
Yeah.
You're looking for the confirmation, the thing, the universe is giving you the answer. You just have to be open enough to see it.
That's right. Yeah. So the process of visualization that happens before you cast a spell, the spell you cast, that in psychology is called priming. Mm-hmm. So you are priming your unconscious mind to start looking for the little steps that will get you to the thing that you want. People that are not magical practitioners, they may do an exercise on priming, such as employees all around the world do this every year. They're just called objectives. So basically it's about that. It's setting your objectives. What do you want? Magical people don't write objectives. They write spells. That's the only difference. So you're priming your unconscious mind in the run-up to casting a spell. You then perform the ritual, which in and of itself draws on the psychological connections between how and why a ritual works. And then you're out into the world and you are unconsciously noticing the little stepping stones that will get you to the thing that you want. So Carl Jung called it synchronicity. We may just refer to it as coincidence, but it's essentially the same thing. You're looking for these meaningful coincidences that tell you that you are on the right path to getting what you want. And it's not always that as soon as you cast the spell, you open your front door, ta-da, there's the thing that you want. It doesn't work like that. But it may come in the form of several steps. It might be a text message you get from someone that then leads you to another thing that you then get the answer. Or it could be several steps away from actually achieving what you want. But it's about being open to be guided by those meaningful coincidences, those synchronicities that just pop up all over the place. And that's really what the psychology behind the spell casting is asking you to do. But it's the priming bit, getting you ready to look for meaningful coincidence. That's essentially what you're trying to achieve.
Okay. So the things could have happened anyway, but if you haven't primed yourself, you're not going to recognise what it is. I'm intrigued by the workplace analogy.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to translate that a bit more for lay people like myself. So it's a bit like you see what you want to do. So at the end of this year, I want to get recognition. I want to get a bonus or a pay rise or whatever. I want to be in a place where I have the opportunity to be promoted, that sort of thing. And so I've got a number of things to do to achieve that. So you prime yourself by writing your objectives and setting out clear, achievable targets for what you want at the end of the year. But then you have to do the work, right? Just writing the list of things that you want to have done by the end of the year, you still have to have done them. Back to I still had to score the goals, having visualized them, and then you get to the end of the year, and that's when you get having achieved everything and seen the opportunities that present themselves throughout the year to enable what you wanted. So I want to get a promotion. So you're doing the work, you're getting recognized, you see an opportunity somewhere else, you apply for it, whereas you might not have done if you hadn't set that as being part of your goals. You might have done the work but without seeing the opportunity that existed somewhere else.
That's right.
Or making yourself available mentally to take that opportunity.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And this happens all the time. People who seek support from psychologists, even in sport, people might utilize this act of visualizing to achieve the success that they're after. This is just second nature to entrepreneurs, sports people. The only difference between an entrepreneur and a sports person and a magic person is the fact that we've gone in a room and we've lit a candle and thrown some herbs together and performed a little ritual.
But sports people have rituals.
That's true.
Sports people have, football in particular, is one of the most superstitious, but subconsciously superstitious sports around, and the kind of ritual. So, you hear of players who have to be the last one in the line when they're walking out onto the pitch. There was a guy a few years ago, I think it was Paul Ince, who wouldn't put his shirt on until he was actually going onto the pitch. So he wouldn't do it in the dressing room, things like that. Or they have to do certain things the night before or the day of the game, that kind of thing. And that's all coupled with their positive mental attitude, visualization, the night before they expect to score goals or what have you. But we as fans do it as well. We have our rituals. So, I have spent weeks watching my team play football on the TV, sitting in the same place, wearing the same shirt, doing the same things because they were doing well.
Yes.
So you don't change it.
That's right.
England's men's team playing in the Euros last year.
What year?
21.
Okay, 2021. Okay.
So my son was watching them, but he watched the first game at a friend's house. And so they did well. And so he asked, and his friend's dad asked, can he stay and watch the rest of the games?
Yeah.
So I didn't watch the Euros with my son because he was watching them with his friend and his friend's dad because he'd been there when they did well.
Yes.
And so they didn't want to change it. And we got all the way to the final. Yeah. And then we lost and then there were tears. But, we as fans have rituals.
Yeah.
We kind of do that as well.
And as a fan, you're making a correspondence between a thing that happened and
thing
the
I'm
result.
wearing as well.
Yeah. That's what magical people do. Yeah. They have correspondences with certain colours. So they will only use a red candle for a certain thing. They have correspondences with the plants and herbs. And all of this stuff, it's the same thing. It's just called a different thing. Yeah. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, being a magical practitioner, trying to achieve success, positive change, is no less legitimate just because I've lit a candle and said a chant. That's what I don't get from the other communities that do the same thing. They've created a correspondence in their mind. Now that will give me success. Okay, so that's what I've done. I've created a correspondence between this colour and this outcome.
It's labels, though, isn't it? It's what we said. It's about labels. So we call it Magick. So it's looked down upon.
Yeah.
Because skeptics and people of science and things like that like to think that what they're doing is different. I'm saying you have a positive mental attitude, all of this kind of psychological stuff. It's like we've textbooks upon textbooks and we've learned all of this stuff and we've given it long fancy names. You're lighting a candle, therefore it's invalid.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it drives me mad. So so the guy Paul Ince with his shirt, he's made a correspondence there.
And sports people do it all the time. I mean, that is a massive part of what they do. You get people will put on their kit in certain order. Their correspondence with left boot first or right boot first, that sort of thing. Gary Lineker used to have a warm bath before he played football to kind of loosen up the muscles, but he corresponded. There was a correspondence there with, I guess, performance. I mean, it was a physical thing. It was to help his muscles more than psychological, but then it became a psychological thing. I would imagine that if I haven't had my warm bath, my muscles are going to be tight, negative thoughts, panicking, whereas your positive mental attitude comes from the safety of the ritual.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly that ritual gives that wraparound of, I don't know, it's almost like tying it to the result. And I know that sports teams spend an awful lot of money to get their players to think like that. Nobody calls it magic. That's exactly what it is. But no one calls it that. But, if I was so inclined, I could, if anyone invited me to, and, feel free, go along to the England team and start doing all of this stuff to get them to think like winners. I would just do it my way, but I'm not a doctor. I didn't go to medical school, so I don't get invited. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Don't get in the doldrums. Don't think like you're not going to win. Here are some techniques to get you to think like you are going to win. Close your eyes. Imagine winning, blah, blah, blah. It's all that.
How would it differ, though, in Magick, where, so for a fan, so I said I watched my team, I sat in the same place, watching it on the telly, wearing the same shirt, doing the same sort of things because they were doing well. But then that ends, that run of success ends, they stop doing well. I discard that ritual. It no longer works.
Yeah.
I will, okay, I'm not tied to this shirt. I'm not tied to watching it on the iPad or whatever. I can do other things now and create another ritual.
Yeah.
So how does that work with regards to Magick? If you don't see the outcome that you want to, because, I guess the success rate is probably high, but there may be instances where things don't always work the way you want them to. You do it again? You discard it? How does is it different?
You're right. So the correspondences that a lot of magical practitioners use work because they are ancient. It's part of the collective unconscious. So as humans, we've been using the same correspondences, and it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy that they have now been imprinted with the belief that this is a thing and it will work. The bit that everybody gets to create is how that correspondence might be applied in a ritual. Now, some rituals are documented. They come from long established esoteric religions like Golden Dawn or Thelema or Wicca or blah, 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 or any of them. And you can read about that in a book and you can follow the steps. And it's just, if this then doesn't work for you, have a look back at, did you not apply the same correspondences? Did you not apply the ritual in the way that you wanted it to? Or did you then not look for those meaningful coincidences that came after? Have you not been sort of keeping your eye out, keeping your ears out for the answer, recognizing the result as it shows up, and bearing in mind that, like most things, the thing that you want to happen, you kind of have to apply a level of realism to the achievement of it, but also the time it might take to get here. Have you applied some unexpected or some unrealistic aspect to that, either in the thing that you want? I'm going to go out on a limb and say, if you cast a spell so that you could become a mermaid, quite possibly that's not going to happen for you in the way that you want it to. But have a think about the realism behind that. What else could you do? You could get a performative job, because mermaids exist in the performance industry, but not actually in the ocean.
Or you could end up as a scuba diver.
A scuba diver.
Or something like that.
Thinking about what actually does it look like for you in the mundane world, this real world that unfortunately is so boring we have to live in. But yeah, or did you apply an unrealistic time frame to that goal manifesting? Did you decide, I want to be a mermaid, it's
tomorrow,
3 days and I'm not one, what the hell? Okay, so the way that the brain works, you can't give it too many conflicting things to do either. So if after 3 days your thing didn't happen, and then you say, oh, well, I want a different thing now. Oh, and then that didn't work. Oh, and now I want a different thing. You're not giving yourself a chance.
I suppose this is where the sports analogy kind of breaks down a little bit, because we are, as sports fans, projecting our wants and our desires very much onto other people to deliver them. We are putting our faith in a team or an individual or whatever. And our collective subconscious of fans, as we're putting all of our different rituals together and kind of trying to will the same thing to happen, and it's not always going to be like that. And so we will discard correspondences perhaps, or maybe look, I was wearing my lucky shirt but I wasn't wearing my lucky pants, or or whatever, or I knew this game was going to go really badly because the bus was late or something, or my routine was disrupted, that sort of thing.
And presumably as sports fans, you're not in communication all on the same message, so there's conflicting things getting sort of put out there.
I want to win 2-0, I want to win 3-0, I want to smash these bastards, I want to just I'll be happy with a point,
exactly. So all of this conflicting stuff, and if to move it away from sports and fans, if you're just doing something for yourself, you as an individual trying to achieve an outcome, try not to put that conflicting idea out there either. You have to have just the one thing, and that's the thing. Don't then pile on or go, oh no, actually I'm going to change my mind, because that's just going to mess with it.
And I guess, so going back to my example, was seeing myself score 4 goals. That was the act, but what I wanted was to win the trophy, to win the golden boot. So it's entirely possible that I could have not done that. I could have scored 4 goals, but the other guy could have scored 1 or 2 and still won it. But then the next year I might win the golden boot because it's still there. That's what I wanted to do. And it sort of, the act continues throughout, and it can take a while for the thing to be delivered. It's not just going to turn up, Amazon next day delivery, that sort of thing. So okay, that's cool. That makes sense. What other aspects of life might this manifest into? Because psychology covers everything, really. So, but I mean, sort of, the aspect of visualization. I mean, you talked, I think you mentioned that entrepreneurs earlier on. This is something that they would do.
So absolutely. So entrepreneurs, they obviously want to achieve business success. So it's not sport success, it's business success. But in the same way that sports people and sports teams will get a consultant in and teach them how to do this, entrepreneurs do this all the time. They might apply a technique called well-formed outcomes. We talked a little bit about employees, they write objectives. So these well-formed outcomes are all about what is measurable, what is realistic, what is achievable, what is timely. And they will have that, maybe they will have a mission statement connected to their business. And that is something that might be displayed in their office, it might be on their business card, it might be on their website. So that is always in their mind. So the mission statement for that entrepreneurial goal. And through that act, they are then priming their unconscious to achieve that mission statement. And it's less bogged down in the, oh, well, first of all, I need to get a business account, or I need to do this, or I need to be on social media. It's less about that and more about less about how do I do the thing, and it's just that's the thing. And obviously, as an entrepreneur, they're probably less about doing a ritual and lighting a candle and saying a spell, but ultimately they may choose to do visualizations. Now, I know that there are so many entrepreneurs out there that will probably look at the idea of doing a visualization as woo and rubbish and nonsense.
I bet there are loads out there that think it's absolutely on the money, though.
Yeah.
They see themselves as, you know, the end game is what you look to.
Yeah.
And as you said, you almost don't worry about how you're going to get there. That's other work to be done. But the point is, this is what I want to achieve. I want a console in every home.
Yeah.
We're going to put a man on the moon. How we're going to do it is...
Absolutely.
We don't know yet,
yeah.
But that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. And I think it might have been Steve Jobs that visualized the iPod or whatever. But yeah, big named, household named people like Steve Jobs do undertake these processes in order to achieve business success. They might not think of it in the terms of law of attraction, secret, manifesting, visualizing, or any of that woo stuff, but it's, who cares about a label?
This is the aim, this is the mission statement, it's the same thing. So like when you're casting a spell, this is the aim, this is the mission statement, this is what I want the end result to be.
Yeah.
And then the element between the spell casting and the actual delivery is immaterial almost. You've just, you've primed yourself, you've got to be open to see it, but how it gets there doesn't matter so much.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think for people who cast spells and maybe don't see the result that they're looking for, I think if we just invite them to have a pause and think about, well, how much priming have you done? It might not be a word that you use every day, but how much of the visualization did you practice before you cast the spell? How much of the visualization were you doing while you were casting the spell? And then how open were you to those meaningful coincidences after the spell has cast? And if there's any breakdown in any of this, perhaps that is a reason why the results are not showing up for you. It's not that magic doesn't work, because I believe it does work. I think that in sports and in business, people might not use that word magic, but I recognise it for what it is. Their success is because magic works.
Yeah. Going back to the bit there you just said about have you done enough priming, have you prepared enough, that sort of thing. Yeah. I mean, this could just be redundant, but in your opinion, do you think there's some kind of correlation between the scale of the change that you're trying to achieve or the outcome that you want and the amount of priming you need to do? So I visualized myself scoring 4 goals for a week. That's how when I knew how many I would need and the point at which time I was given an opportunity to act upon it. But if you're if you want a fundamental change, I know I mentioned we're in the house we're in because you kind of visualized it, you saw it, you kind of manifested it, but you didn't spend just a week thinking about that. That was a long-term kind of thought process and priming for a fairly substantial outcome. So, you can't just think of something for half an hour, do the spell and then wait. But do you think you need to spend longer priming for bigger asks, or is that just more quality over quantity?
I don't think you do need to spend longer. I think if you've got a goal, you wake up one morning, you have a goal in your mind, you start from that moment. That goal may then be successfully achieved at the end of the day. It's how open are you to taking action?
Okay.
Now,
is it clarity of goal as well?
Clarity of goal. I would invite people to worry less about the how. Don't worry about how.
How am I going to get this?
No, don't get in your own head. You will literally get in your own way.
I can't do this because I don't know how to do. Yeah. I haven't got the opportunity to.
Exactly. I think worrying about the how will put those barriers up, because that's when you start to confuse your brain. You're then getting into the saying no, I can't world.
Going back to the man on the moon thing, don't know how we're going to do it yet, but that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Clear goal.
Yeah, it's the goal. Don't worry about how. That's not up to you. It's almost out of your hands is the how. But the goal, you've got the goal, you woke up, you know what you want. That's a difficult job done, knowing what you want. And then you will spend some time visualizing. You might perform the little ritual, cast a spell, say the incantation, and then you do some work looking out for those meaningful coincidences. Now, when I was manifesting the house, I didn't realize how. I didn't get into the how, because the thing that I wanted seemed financially out of reach. It seemed opportunistically out of reach. I didn't worry about how. It was, I want that. And then I'm going to create a situation, a ritual. I'm going to get that. And then, as you know, opportunity.
We did.
It just all aligned at the right time. It was all about the timing. So yeah, and that's what I think. If anyone can take away from this podcast, don't worry about how you're going to get there. Just know that you've primed. You're going to do a little bit of work afterwards, and you can have anything, anything you want. Just might not live up to that Hollywood interpretation that we have of what does magic look like, and push, there's my thing, hooray, it was all instant. It's not, and it does mean a little bit of hard work.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's not coming.
Oh God, no, it doesn't mean it's not coming at all. In fact, it is. It's on its way now.
Cool. So that's been good. Again, I think I'd always known about positive mental attitude and kind of, the sports applications and things. I don't think I'd kind of drawn the parallels with magical processes and with spell casting and things like that. But actually, and certainly the correspondences, I hadn't really thought about that either. But yeah, but it's all there. So it all makes much more sense to me now.
No worries.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's it. That's our show. So that's it. That's our show. If you liked it, give us a rating and review, share with others, tell your friends. You'll find all our contact stuff over at magentaschoolofmagic.com, including our social media and links to the Magic School itself.